Hello everyone, this is Radio Asian Aryan, and I'm joined here is with Jotaro Goebbels.
Hey guys, nice to be back on YouTube. Actually, that account is no longer working, so now it's Jotaro Mengele, but it's still Goebbels on Discord.
And there's also the Hateful Happa.
You can find me in the void.
Well, it's actually the last time I remember this. Jotaro actually went to Japan back some months ago, and he was on that adventure. And during that time, I was just doing some other things as well, and been busy with other projects. But now that you're back,
there was that one podcast that I was hoping to take part in with a few other guys, and I was like super sick, and I logged onto Discord, and I was like, "Hey guys, I'm dying." But so finally I'm back. I was in Japan for 5 months, study abroad, just with my college. But yeah, so it was the first time I was there before for a few months, but it was the first time I was living by myself in Japan. So
in the next few weeks, I'm actually going to apply to study in Japan too. I already got all the recommendations down. And all that
good
stuff.
Luck with that.
Yeah, so if I go in Japan, it'll probably be from June of 2018 till maybe next year of a full year contract. I don't know, but it's a lot, and I won't even know if I get accepted until 5 months. So it's something to do, and I'm probably going to apply in 4 weeks, but. I have everything down. It's just been super
I'm
busy.
thinking of possibly teaching for a while before going to graduate school. I'm not sure, but if I did, it wouldn't be with JET because then it would be the next year, and also you don't get to pick the city that you go to.
Right.
So,
they're just.
So that you do get a lot of good benefits. So if you don't have much of a huge preference for where you are, then it is apparently really good.
Well, I thought it would be interesting to talk about observations and things like that. Hateful Happa is a close friend of mine, and he has his own interesting philosophies, and I think it's very similar to your own stuff, Jotaro, in some way. I don't know if because I know Hateful Happa's into gassing jokes and Nazi jokes all the time, but thoughts on
as
that?
As a prank, just a prank, bro.
It's a prank.
There's an internet culture about all that.
Well, I don't know because I know
TRS culture.
Yeah, TRS because I know both you guys are really into it, and it's just I'm more of the serious part. I get it, but it's just I don't say gas the kikes everywhere, but I don't know.
I don't say that everywhere.
Actually,
so time and a place for everything.
Well, it's weird. There was a recent video of that guy who just doxed Greg Johnson and some of the guys, in the red scene. And the Hope Not Hate thing has a trailer. I should upload this.
I don't think I've seen that video.
Okay, I'm clearly in it on the Unite the Right rally. And he's just talking in the back, and there I am with my Super Mario mustache and Athena t-shirt. Which people said, that guy's a part of the anime right if you want to talk to him. And they knew who I was.
The video, or you just they talk about you.
No, I'm in the video, but they don't talk about me. It's just a cameo, and it's clear I'm right there with our megaphone. Right when the police were kicking everyone out, the guy, the infiltrator rat guy, was
I think it's Luigi.
Yeah, But I'm clearly there in like screenshot 1 and 2, but nobody really is putting the pictures together and saying that's Pill Eater. I could tell everyone that, but it's there, so whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of hilarious.
It is.
I actually found out because of Discord stuff, but one step ahead, you know.
It's like
were you both at Unite the Right?
Yeah.
Were you also Hapo? Yeah.
Hapo, what are some of your experiences? What you've observed there?
I didn't do much. I mean, it was alright. It was just meh tier for me.
You didn't get like attacked by Antifa at all?
No, not really. Like I just stayed with like the group that I was a part of. That was it. We didn't do much. We just kind of
that's for the better.
Like in the just stayed on the sidelines. Didn't really we were there to like watch everything, but we didn't get involved in anything.
Because as I remember that weekend, I was just I think in was it a dorm then, or was I in the share house? So I was in my room and I was just like watching like all these videos of just people fighting. Like I was like, shit, America shit hit the fan.
Well, I mean, it's like surprisingly, I didn't get maced either. I was pretty much in the same where Happa was, just following directions. But I saw a lot of shit drama happening, and I will say I was black-pilled for at least 2 to 3 weeks on the whole event.
Yeah.
There still is this, oddly enough, next
publicity is good publicity.
Yeah. Oddly enough, Next Shark, this tabloid website, was saying this Asian man is in the alt-right. Look at him walking for Unite the Right.
And, the dude with the blue button down, right?
Yeah, I saw him too, and I wanted to talk.
Yeah,
to him.
I saw him too. Like,
I wanted to talk to him,
cool.
but before everything happened, the cops wanted us out, so I didn't have time to conversate.
I think one of the vandals talked about this on the war room. They had a Japanese guy in like either the shield wall or on one of the patrols that they sent out.
I saw him. Yeah, he had.
Which group was he with? Which group is this?
One of the TRS guys was talking. He was on this like the security team or like the shield wall. Said they had a Japanese guy there with them.
Oh yeah, he had
who volunteered for it.
T-shirt. The guy who assassinated one of the NHK guys with a knife. It's a very famous.
Is it some like the physical removal T-shirt?
That I don't think it was true, but people were like spreading it like it was true. But I guess it was sort of fake news. So it was some picture of like some Japanese Nazi thing, but they were saying, Japanese sent recruits to Unite the Right, but it turns out that wasn't real. That was
But since then, since the Chinese guy being there was also that same follow-up with Vice magazine saying, well, Christopher Cantwell, who we had on, has a Chinese tattoo, Jared Taylor speaks Japanese, which Richard Spencer's been to Japan, so it obviously means there's some coalition between whites and Asians, but we're not sure what it is yet.
With Richard, that might be true. He hasn't had like at least 2 Asian girlfriends or something.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's during
With Christopher Cantwell, I mean, that's just
it's ridiculous.
Get a tattoo that they don't know.
It's like ridiculous.
Like there's a bunch of Americans with really like sort of generic kanji tattoos.
For all Cantwell knows, his tattoo could mean I'm a massive faggot. I actually love Cantwell, so Cantwell, if you're listening to this, you're
too.
awesome.
Yeah, I like Cantwell too. I've been listening to all this jail.
It's not that bad because it does mean probably what he thinks it means. So
hopefully
it's true. Unless he thinks it means something else, then.
But luckily, you also had the. I think Happy you showed me this. The Plan A website, which is just who cares about this website? Yeah. And they're like, why are Asian men falling for the alt right? It seems now there is this fad. Whether this happened after Unite the Right of making these assumptions that the Asian community is going to fall under the alt-right, which ironically never touches upon Asian Aryanism, which doesn't want to touch upon deeper values, but wants to put it as this tabloid warning, which I find very strange now. I don't know.
I really want to get into that subject.
I know. Like, I'm sad every time they mention this, because they just won't reference Asian Aryanism or any stuff or unique... I just find it weird. They have their own lingo for it, but they don't want to. They think, well, it's just a thing. It's not really an institution at all.
I think it's probably only a matter of time. I mean, it might be a while, but maybe once like some of the bigger alt-right people name drop it, then like the news could pick it up too.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of time too. And the other thing is, you notice, like you said, they pretty much just give a tabloid overview of Asian men and the alt-right. Another thing you'll notice is that whenever Asian leftists, they talk about, that Asian men should be leftists, they always talk about it's because Asian men don't have as much sex as everyone else.
Right.
It's very postmodern.
It's a very
about,
weird. Like that's
how
the
much
only
can we
point.
consume as a group.
Well, no, I just think it's bizarre. It's all about sex. I didn't think
the
that
weird
would
thing for me.
be because most Asian men on average are right wing, and it's kind of bizarre that they would not.
And the funny thing is, it's also true that well, this isn't specifically Asian, but in general, there were some studies in Europe that showed that right-wing people were more satisfied in their sexual lives, at least the far right. The conservatives weren't, but the far right was the highest of all political groups in multiple European countries. So I think so. It's saying that because you're not at the top of what the sexual marketplace, you should be a cultural Marxist leftist. Well, that's just gonna make you more of a bitch. You're that's not a good. That's gonna make everything worse. And nobody likes some really bitter social justice warrior. So yeah, that's bad strategy.
It's what's that
happening?
happening?
Well, the other thing is, it's relating to sex and things like that, is that our grandfathers, like World War II or maybe even World War I generation, were having more and better sex than we are, mainly because they stuck with one partner rather than trying to go out and fish for women in a nightclub or something.
Well, yeah, it's unfortunately true because it's I do think today sex is very overrated, especially promiscuous sex. It seems to me that you would kind of be satisfied once you have it, but then it's there are people, especially, I know this sounds, classical MGTOW or F. Roger Devlin sexual utopian power, but alphas who are millionaires pretty much don't want to settle down because they have this power, so you might as well go with any Playboy bunny you want, and it just keeps continuing. And so now normies and Chads and Stacys have the same values, and now it's becoming this strange the normal man, if whoever you want to call it, the beta male or whatever, is just, he's lucked out, and he can't have a stable family. It's you have to fish or play Tinder or and deal with a feminist or a promiscuous woman who has all this emotional baggage. You can't find quality or just sane people, and you have to think, is it really that difficult for two different people of the opposite sex to get along? I think there really is this facade that's making sexual relationships really bad. And if Plan A says that, well, Asian men don't get a lot of sex, therefore they're alt-rig, it's really just this argument that they don't like prude asexual people. They're never. It's well, I do believe there's this. It seems to what.
I would kind of disagree with when you were referring to the average man is beta. I mean, if that's true, I would say that reflects on the problems of our times, and I don't think that there's anything to I don't agree with normalizing just be beta and just well, society's at fault. No, you should improve yourself. And I think a lot of the people that think of themselves as beta, some of them maybe they really are, but a good amount of them, I think, have just been having a hard time in something and can improve upon themselves. And I don't think that there's no strict line between alpha and beta. It's about self-improvement, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I don't mean to say that it's beta orbital male, or when people think beta now, it means the most weakest traits, you're just this weak guy that falls under the orders of the woman's request. But I do think that, yeah, absolutely. I do think it's definitely what I think a lot of normal men fall for, the bad masquerade and facade of feminism, and they become beta. But then when you realize these actions, people have to gear into alpha. Yeah. And I really think the media and the government, it's hostile against being alpha or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Submissive consumers. And I think that's, and now when you put that to the Asian perspective, it's very strange. Yeah.
Personally, I was mostly raised by my mother, so I didn't have there was a little bit of that issues, but I've completely gone through that, and in school, of course, they try to feminize you and everything. I found that one thing that helps is, I know it sounds cliche, but yeah, really don't eat soy and don't eat too much carbs. Just you eat meat, you get more testosterone, you feel like a man, and yeah, just eat meat, work out, and it'll take care of itself, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that I stopped eating soy, I think July 2016, maybe. Yeah. And I started also doing martial arts and working out more often. I noticed I started losing a pretty good amount of weight.
Yeah. Well, I was never fat, but I used to be really skinny. I'm still trying to get bigger, but I'm okay. I'm normal now, but yeah, I used to be pretty skinny.
I started working out in March of 2016, actually. And I started getting a gym membership, and it's only been a year and 18 months, and I've seen improvements in my body. But before then, I was the typical frail Yukio Mishima Confessions of a Masked character, which I think I might be.
Yeah, I probably looked about the same, and it was at a similar time period also. But yeah, definitely I've noticed that it's completely different. Yeah, now that I'm back here and I don't have the same weights that I've been trying to get one. Look today and couldn't find what I wanted, but it's all good.
The only thing I think is very dangerous is I find that there's this kind of civil war or political outlook between the alt-right is having this war between normies, they have to red pill, but for this the Asian Aryan cause, I find that like subjects on Plan A that don't understand, I'm afraid that there's literally sadly some Asian Americans, or at least whites, with Asian girlfriends, or maybe white females with Asian boyfriends, that really believe that we are bad because supposedly it's anti-liberal or anti-normie, and they think, and they think in terms of just well, it's good to be beta and everything's consent, and this has nothing to do with it. And I really think it's kind of this nihilism they don't want to address, and it really is for this care of something greater, or they're just shallow people. I have that thought about, and I'm always worried about.
Well, the one thing is,
shallow people.
When you say, was it white women with Asian boyfriends? You should be saying Asian men with white girlfriends, because you're not going to be red pilling women directly. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, so, it does not.
Oh yeah.
So, if a woman thinks it's good to be beta, what that means is she wants somebody to cook for her and do shit for her. Which, I mean, sometimes, there's a place for that. But basically it just means she wants power or something, which isn't natural. I mean, to an extent, yes. I mean, I'm not advocating Islamic Sharia or anything. But, it's just feminism is what that is. And so, yeah, the way I think that you would red pill women is just basically it has to be their boyfriend that red pills them, to be honest.
Yeah, you got to red pill them by proxy.
Yeah,
it's the patriarchy works, in other words.
Yeah,
I do like that, to focus Asian male, because I've tried to write that, but exactly, I think Asian males should come first because they are. It's an interesting.
Well, in that specific dynamic, of course.
Yeah,
because the woman you can't try to red pill a woman, even though there are some that are very red pilled and stuff, but generally you're not gonna red pill a woman on anything.
The only way I found that you can red pill a woman is by appealing to their emotions, and as somebody who's not really who can't really relate to most people on an emotional level, I can't really do that. So I find that if you're going to try to red pill any female, you should do it through a boyfriend or something.
Yeah, I've only had success red pilling people I've been in a relationship with. So
James Alsop, I can't say his name.
Alsop,
yeah. He had a video recently about robots and sex robots, and about how, I don't know if you've seen this video, but I thought it was really interesting.
I've heard that a lot of the conversation.
The ideal is that...
I didn't see it, but this sounds funny.
Jezebel and feminist outlets are mad at the sex robots because it
of
put
course.
white women out of business, and men could get their virtual waifu robots and do whatever and just turn them off if they complain. And that's very interesting because...
Well, actually, like, Kurt Doolittle talked about this.
Oh, yeah?
But, like, he talked about this relating to prostitution. He said, women don't like prostitution being legalized because imagine you're a roofer and you charge, let's say, $1,000 to work on somebody's roof, and then somebody comes in and starts offering you your same service but for $100. Because overall, with like with these things, like it's pay once and you'll get your product, rather than you have to invest a lot of time into it, like picking up women at bars or shit like that.
Yeah, of game, but exactly, I find that the feminist thing is.
But I think the alt-right has a little bit of an unhealthy obsession with sex robots. It just keeps on coming up, and it's like, guys, calm down. I personally, I don't really get the whole thing. I guess so there's some people, some people feel like they need it, so obviously there's that. But I don't know. It's a little weird.
The ideal is that I think... Well, it's just unfortunate because feminism is flawed, as James put it, because robots or the demands of white women under this ideology can't be satisfied because men want it this way, and it just shows you that there's something crudely messed up with the nature.
It does show all that, but I don't think we should advocate using sex robots.
Of course. So,
I don't know.
Yeah, of course.
It comes up a lot in
this,
these communities.
Exactly. I don't say that, but I just think that it's interesting that people are willing to counter feminism through that. It just becomes this ridiculous extent that there's something toxic happening. But
definitely. It's just gotten really weird. Like, just saw this one tweet. Let me see if I can pull this up.
I don't know. Like ever since I've been around the alt-right, it's always been weird.
Okay, so this one person tweeted. Gay and straight people have monosexual privilege, meaning they don't experience oppression for being attracted to multiple genders. This is the tweet that I was just reading before you called me, and just sort of feminism made me think of that, and just it has gone really weird. Like
it's Trotskyite constant revolution. They just keep making it worse and worse.
Like a few years ago, like no one would people even probably the same person wouldn't think that
I know.
This tweet would not even exist 5 years ago. Like something similar would, but not quite that. It just gets weirder and weirder.
I was thinking about the no, I'm just thinking about this whole the control with the red-pilled boyfriend dynamic. Speaking of, this is something of my own interest. I love music, and I usually collect vinyl records and odd stuff. So I was listening to music. I have a vinyl record player, and I have this old record. I love weird jazz, so I have this one jazz record by Herman Mann and Tomiko Jones, a Japanese woman. And this is just pretty much weird, exotic flute jazz with this Japanese woman singing about how, oh, life's so great, I love my man. Typical Wamafel stuff, and it's very masculine and very interesting.
Is the guy white?
Yeah, he's white. I have it. Let me see. Hold on.
I don't know much about jazz, to be honest.
I'll put on my camera real quick, but because this is audio, this is what the record actually looks like. I'm just looking at it right now, and it's really old, traditional.
Yeah. Like 60s.
60s looking. However, as I get these records in and out, I have another record, unfortunately, by the name of Mitski's Puberty 2, which is relatively popular.
Yeah, she's cool.
Yeah, she is very cool. I did see her live, but reading the liner notes to some of her record, because I think she's a secret Asian Aryan Wamafel person too. Yeah. But the thing is, and under her record,
well, I mean, she's like Hapa, and she
dedicates the entire album.
What's that? Music video where it was she was she was dating some white guy, and she thought he was cheating, but he was actually a serial killer. Killing one show I just remember that. That's the only video I remember of her. I don't and there was some other stuff too, but yeah, like she has a lot of stuff about like I don't know jealousy and like I don't know.
But here's the thing, so. I was reading the liner notes to the album again, and I forgot to notice that she dedicates the entire album to her boyfriend, Patrick. And I didn't understand this, but Patrick took the photographs of the entire album, and it seems like this, I don't know if you want to call it unhealthy worship, but she does dedicate saying, this is dedicated to Patrick, this is just you and me, something in the liner notes like that, and half the lyrics.
Well, that's not lawful because the Irish aren't white, of course.
hey, but
it ends at Germany. I'm kidding.
The point is, what I've examined from these two records, just in my record collection, I was thinking to myself, well, this is interesting dynamics right here. I know SJWs and Tumblrites really like Mitski, and there is some of that goes on the internet, and they really want to believe that, oh, this has nothing to do with race. This has something to do with trigger warnings and feminism and all this comfort stuff. However, being like Herman Mann and Tamika Jones, it's much more straightforward and masculine, probably from a different era. But today, I think SJWs, look at Mitski being... If Patrick is a part of the relationship, I would say Patrick has a lot to do with Mitski's output, the same way Herman Mann plays the flute. And but we're talking about this. That's what I'm trying to put this in, the whole red pill, that the patriarchy is important to the establishment of an Asian Aryan identity. So,
well, basically, patriarchy is the only form of like society that actually works. So it's just essential to any. It just as a basic starting point. I mean, there's not really any successful society that doesn't have it. So, I mean, like there's matrilineal societies like Jews, but that's about as close as you get.
I mean, I'm super soft, and sometimes I like to believe that a matriarchy could work. Or I mean, there are some. Like when I say matriarchy, I mean women going together. But the problem is,
I think do you have any example? I mean, there might be some tribe somewhere, but like that's not.
Well, here's the thing. I remember a Return of the Kings article. I forget the guy who wrote it, but he referenced I think it was a Scandinavian reality TV show where they put all the men on this island, they put all the women on that island. All the men on that island built a house, got things together, and survived. All the women on that island complained and cried and wanted help, and they needed a man in their life. And I don't know. I forget the Scandinavian reality show, but that basically was the point that the matriarchy falls under pressure when they're in a patriarchal man sleeve, but matriarchy is better as mothers, as creatures of kind of basic stuff that Lana Lockteff says or something. I don't know.
Well, right. I mean, but that's not. I mean, like if you're talking about society and not about just like motherhood, there is no matriarchy. Like it just doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. And it never will. Yeah, I think that's just kind of obvious to anyone who would even be listening to this podcast.
I remember, I guess to change the subjects here, I remember seeing some of your pictures while you were in Japan, such as...
I only had a few, because a lot of my pictures had me in it and other people, and it's an anonymous account, so...
Well,
didn't have too many,
but... I remember... some of the pictures of just I think it was the tango women or something, or like.
Oh, I sent that to you personally.
Oh, you did? I thought that was funny.
Yeah, samba.
Samba.
I was involved with some samba dancers. It was a lot of fun. I actually learned how to dance.
Interesting.
Yeah, nice. It wasn't what I expected to happen when I went to Japan. It's a fun surprise.
But it sounds like, I guess, women were much more nicer there, or much more accessible.
Yeah, they're a lot friendlier. I mean, like, I'm not acting like I was here and like I can't even talk to women. No, of course not. But they're less like sarcastic, less stuck up, really, and I don't know. Just people are generally pretty friendly in Japan. Like, I would just say in general, people are pretty like nice. I mean, most I can get along with lots of people here too, but definitely the women are a lot more feminine. There is not a real feminism. Like there is real degeneracy, but there isn't really like the same kind of feminism we have here. So that is one major difference.
Well, how many of the gaijin were there? How much of that was there? Or
how many gaijin were there?
Yes. Not counting yourself, but
right. Well, in this school, it was a very international school that prides itself on that. So there were a fair bit, and also a lot of people there spoke really good English. A lot of them they want to go to international school because like they've been like spent years in like New Zealand or something. So a lot of there was a lot of international element there. But in term like, and then in the second place, after school ended, I stayed a little bit longer during the summer for personal reasons and stuff, and I was at a share house that also had a lot of foreigners. I mean, it was mostly Japanese, and most of the foreigners were like Chinese or no, Korean and Vietnamese. But I hung out with mostly there's two white guys and a Hapa guy, and then just as I was leaving, this French Japanese Hapa guy came into that sort of group. It was also pretty cool. But like, yeah, it was. So at the end, I was in very Asian Aryan environment. But and then in school too, like most of the foreigners were either white or Asian. Of course, there were others and stuff, but in general, it was like that. As in terms of the demographics and stuff in Japan, most of the diversity is in Tokyo, which is where I was. But when you leave Tokyo, it is basically Japanese. Tokyo, though, like a lot of people in the alt-right like to point to Japan and be like, look, this is a perfect ethno state. No, it isn't. There is a lot of diversity in Tokyo. And I don't just mean like diversity that we would consider good, like as if, there's some, like, this German guy selling sausages. No, there is bad diversity too. But of course, it's nothing like America. And so, yeah, they do have a point there, but I would like to put out, don't go around thinking Japan is an ethno state. No, it's a little bit, it's close. It's a step towards an ethno state compared to any Western country.
Well, I also hear that it's the low birth rates you hear going around, and whether that means that the women are being stolen by foreign men, or the men, the Japanese men are not Mishima enough.
I don't think it's either of those at all. I don't think it's related to that at all. I don't even think it's related to like the amount that people have sex. Basically, the population is concentrated in a few major cities, Tokyo and Osaka primarily, and as we all know, in a major populated dense city, it's hard to have kids. You have a small apartment, pretty much. Everyone has a small apartment. I don't know the like birth rates for like major cities in America. Like I don't know how many kids like white people in New York have, but I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't any different from the like.
Well, yeah,
Japanese
New York has turned it into like Americana. It's not exactly Tokyo, but it emulates the style of a crowded city.
Well, but that's the thing. Like Tokyo, like most of the population, or I mean, it might not be most, but like a huge amount of the population is in Tokyo or like Osaka. Like the rural population is very small compared to that. So you have major crowding, and so when people say like the Japanese population is declining and like that there's not enough Japanese, well, it's not really the case. The major cities are all overcrowded. The countryside is definitely underpopulated, yes, but that is because people are moving to the city. And also, Japan has a bigger population than California, and it's like a fraction of the size. So I don't think it's true that like, I don't think it's something that people should worry about, that like Japan has the declining birth rate. What they should worry about is also which is the reason for that, and what they should be worrying about is the population concentration. Like if it was just more spread out, none of this would be an issue. It's not something that immigration would even help, really. It would be like putting a Band-Aid over something. It's really not that it wouldn't, like, you know, that's what the left wants, but that's not the real reason they want it, of course, but that's what they'll say, but that isn't actually going to work, and it's not going to the root of the problem, which is over urbanization.
I always thought that there was this new, relatively in the past 20 or 10 years, this new obsession with teaching in Korea because how inexpensive it is and how much money you get back from Korea. And from what I've heard from stories from Korean friends is that Korea right now, South Korea is really a paused or just a mess. But it seems to me, how would you declare the pause or decadence in Japan? Because when I say pause and decadence, I think it's just white people. If we say black people go in the ghetto and they chimp it out and turn it to mini Africa, I think white people could unfortunately do the same if they take rural parts of Japan and try to make it Asian Aryan, and depending what happens could
most of the white people are in Tokyo and Osaka. They're not in rural parts. There'll be like a few and they're mostly for some English teaching center or something. Like, so I wouldn't say they're in rural areas. And I would say the pause in Tokyo isn't really like related to like white people generally. Like there's the sort of clubbing stuff, which I have participated in, but obviously, you know, that's not really a good thing or anything to be proud of. But I don't know. I feel it's more of a general like just decadence of capitalism, and then there are international elements. You know, there's globalism pushing for certain things.
The Japan Times acting like this, you know, left-wing agency to get in multicultural values that are completely alien to Japanese
the worst
interests.
part was a lot of the guys that they have a lot of basically the seediest part of Japan. So, you know, it is that is should be taken for granted. It's like the seediest areas, you know, which would be the equivalent to like the bad part of downtown LA. So, you know, it is still a lot better. But like they have there's a lot of the clubs hire for really cheap these like, I don't know, Nigerian or something, like workers that just basically harass people on the streets. Say, hey, come to this club or something. Like, hey, it's super great, super rapping or something, and it's super great. And you know, you generally, but apparently if you go in, it's like, sometimes like regular clubs will have them too. But usually it's a scam, and there's like no one there, and it's like you have to buy a drink or something. So, but they do have a lot of like scams with it, and the most times you'll see Africans are like involved in these sort of like scam Yakuza things. And then, I mean, obviously we know there's degeneracy in Japan, but I don't think it's I would say it's less than in America, to be like very much less. And it's much more concentrated. I
really,
all I know about Korea is really what my friend told me who used to teach there. But you know, he was like drunk the whole time. But one of the things he said, which isn't related, isn't paused. It's just sort of like interesting. Apparently, Koreans are a lot more xenophobic than Japanese, is what he was saying.
And that leads to a bigger question: are the Koreans that kooky? I mean,
well, what's your opinion?
What's your opinions on Korean relationships?
My opinions?
Yeah, of your interaction with Koreans.
Oh, personally with me? I don't know. I've never really gotten. I've had lots of interactions, but they've always been sort of surface and never really gotten that deep. I don't know. I know more interactions with Japanese and Chinese. I don't really like. It's always been very surface with Koreans. My friend who was in Korea, he said that that you take a girl on a date or something, and the guy that they'll be like somebody like within hearing range will be like they'll be like saying to his girl like, oh, don't ever talk to a foreigner, they'll rape you on the street, they're a bunch of rape monsters or something. He heard that like all the time apparently.
Well, from my own observations, I will say the Koreans are
apparently they're xenophobic, but
yeah, they are super xenophobic, and it's weird because I've talked this with my friends. As much as you know, the Koreans, they're in America, especially Korean Americans, are mostly the SJW types and the crazy Margaret Cho's and the porn actresses and mostly the kooky ones that are into avant-garde arts. But however, they have this strange personality, whether this is they're acting like Kim Jong-un or something, but I don't know. But at the same time, when Americans, or whatever, go teach in South Korea, they seem to be very fine with the American way of life, especially Botoxing their face and trying to look like white women. Now, I do think there is Asian Aryanism with Koreans.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're trying to look like white women. I think I think people on the internet exaggerate that. I mean, they're trying to look for a certain ideal. It is not the same as white women. They're like a few parts are similar, but the whole thing isn't. Like they do like rounded. They do like try to round their eyes, I guess, and change the nose to have a higher bridge, I think, or maybe they don't generally. I think that's actually more of a few Chinese models did that, but those things are. But the other things they change aren't. So I don't know.
Yeah, I do think. I just think they're a hard creature to. I'm looking for the word control. At least I find Korean men to be very hilarious and very interesting and creative people. I find Korean women to be the most interesting, and you can get lucky with one, but at the same time they have these typical backdrops. But I don't know. There's always this war between Japanese or Korean, but honestly, I feel
that
safe.
much about Koreans, to be honest.
Yeah, actually, I'll be honest. I do like Japanese a little more, but I don't mean to discriminate, but I find that there can be Asian Aryanism with Koreans, but I feel...
Oh, sure. No, I'm not saying that anything against Korea. I'm saying I've never been to Korea. I don't speak any Korean. I don't have... I don't really have any Korean friends, to be honest. I have Chinese and Japanese, and I speak some Chinese and Japanese. I don't really know about Korea, so I don't really want to...
Oddly enough, I know two black men, or black guys, and they had Asian girlfriends, but their Asian girlfriends been Korean. And I always think to myself whether Korean women are the only ones to date black men, or at least be interested in that. And the other thing
Koreans are probably more degenerate. Like they do seem there's a big feminism thing, and their music is based on rap, so it's probably just that.
But they use it's weird because
they're both in America too.
And the Korean women, they want to be controlled. Like, they'll say, I'm a feminist and this and that, but I don't like it when you do this. But in a way, they just, want to be controlled in some strange respect. But again, I have to give the positive respect that the Korean women, especially Americanized, will be the only one that are interested in punk music or avant-garde or some decadent interest. But not to sound nihilistic. I don't know about to sound nihilistic, but I find that...
I don't know about they're the only ones listed in that kind of music. My ex-girlfriend was, I showed her some stuff. She got into Spetsnaz, the
Russian Special Forces?
No, the EBM, the Swedish EBM group, like industrial dance and stuff, and Front 242. I was showing her that stuff.
Yeah.
She liked that a lot. And my other girlfriend, who was in Japan, she was into And One, the German industrial dance, synth pop group and stuff,
Yeah, I'm not going to lie that if you go to any Juju show, you'll find a type of weird Asian, white, bicultural Asian Aryan mix there. And I had Jamie Stewart on the Stark Truth twice. And whenever I go to I know what you're saying there. But yeah, definitely there. It's just that little pearl you'll have to find if you can find that niche. But yeah, that's interesting enough to say that.
Well, it's not like they were into that before. It was just sort of they've gone in into it, but partially through me, to be honest. But I found generally people like a lot of the music I like, even if they haven't known of it before. So maybe it's just that. But yeah, I don't. It's not really punk music, so I don't know. Maybe you're right. Only Koreans like punk music, but I don't know. I don't really listen to punk music. Stuff that post-punk, yes, I guess.
I find it interesting that the alt-right, as it's becoming more popular, it's definitely attracting, as they would like to say, the whole alt-light thing. And whether we're talking about, Blair White, the tranny who likes Trump,
they don't like
that guy T. Yeah, no, but then we could be talking about roaming millennial, or Eurasian happy.
Yeah, but the thing is, I only like her because she's attractive. Like,
exactly.
I don't really care about what she has to say.
So she's just hot. I don't watch her videos because they're softcore porn.
She says nothing original.
She's just softcore porn.
But does anyone on the alt-right say anything original? No, they don't.
No, nothing at all.
At least it's a bonus. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at her debate with Greg Johnson, she basically does nothing except interview him, and like the only person who's really making any counter arguments is that guy T, and even that guy T is like struggling.
Well, that guy T is like basically that guy T is like, I'm amazed. You're actually right, and that's the funny part.
Like, was he arguing against? Was he against roaming millennial?
Yeah, well, it was more like roaming millennial using that guy T as a token object versus Greg Johnson and millennial woes, and it's kind of was weird. Okay. And it was just Greg Johnson basically having a podcast and roaming millennial being pretty, and even Greg saying, "Oh, you're a pretty woman, so don't sweat it." But I guess the point
saw when she interviewed Richard Spencer. I thought it was a very fair interview. And she got a lot of shit for that apparently.
Yeah, she
for just like having a fair interview.
Yeah, she should just go 1488. I don't care. Like that's what I'm saying. She should just go 1488 because that's the whole point. I feel like the only thing that's losing right now is I feel like the left, or you want to call it the cultural mainstream, they basically are trying to tell, okay, any non-white person by default, you should join our side. Yet I think slowly, whether you want to call it red-pilled or the alt-light or this alt-right thing, it's now very incredible popular to be a person of color or a non-white and being on the side of that. And but again, if we had more people like roaming millennial or maybe like shining on the go saying these things, then obviously, and with all these articles showing up, I think they could definitely crack the system of being this bias that non-whites exclusively belong to the left. And I think biculturalism will happen naturally with alt-right philosophy. Yeah. It's just
I think if you travel, you go to like foreign countries, that whole silly thing that apparently if you're non-white you're going to the left, you'll see that it's just not true, and that's just sort of an American thing. I mean, there's like right-wing everywhere, and of course they're not always on the same side. Like, there's nationalist conflicts between different countries and stuff, but I mean, it's just not like, and not always conflicts. There's also cooperation and stuff. But I mean, it's really just a media American thing, and it doesn't even reflect the situation in America. So,
I mean, the other thing is that I might write an article soon for AsianArianism.com called something along the lines of the decadence of Asian leftism. And that basically talks about how, like, the Asian leftists or Asian SJWs, they're always in the middle and upper class. Like, you'll never really see lower class Asians, and you'll never see them go to the left, at least in an intellectual capacity. The other thing is that the Asian leftists is that they will always say, or to Asian Aryans or whoever the hell, or Asians who are sympathetic to the right wing, you're assimilating into white culture, and in a way that's not really true because they're trying to express their own identity, whether they do it consciously or not. While these Asian leftists, they really are giving up their identity to become part of this like swivel culture, or this white liberal hipster culture.
Yeah, it's very hypocritical. The other thing is that it's also true among whites that the lower class is more right wing because they have to deal with like reality, and that's probably the same reason basically with Asians too. It's just if you have to deal with reality, you tend to become more right wing.
If you have more skin in the game, you'll become more right wing.
Yeah, basically. And if you just have a bunch of money to screw around with and just as much coke as you want, fuck it, be a communist because it doesn't matter. You're just gonna you'll be good no matter what. So I don't know. That's how they think. Basically. I mean, I wouldn't say that you should do that, of course, but
I think it's unfortunate because this whole Asian Americanism scene is basically just there really isn't any of it, but when they act political, it's literally just Black Lives Matter, but they just replace black with Asian Lives Matter, and they play yellow gives me that on white guys, but white people, and assume that it's like, well, we're not going to assimilate with white people, but we want our own Asian American thing. And so but it's so hypocritical and ironic is because they speak the lingo of a white person, and it's just like what Happa said. It can't really matter because they're not lower class Asians, or they're not like they're in the upper class, and so it's really futile. And yet there's some
the whole
Asians
language
have the audacity to act
based,
like white, and just.
It's based on Western concepts, for one thing.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying.
It's all based on, like, all these French and, like, Jewish and, like, German ideas that have been going on. Like, they aren't basing it on anything traditionally Asian. There's not, like, they aren't Taoists or something, which I like a lot personally. But
I think it's this egalitarian rainbow country thing where it's, can't we just be individuals while ironically practice self-determination and racialism, where I'll eventually be with someone like myself. That's why I find it so ironic, is that they show this anti-whiteness, and yet either they go with someone like themselves, or it's just hypocritical on face value. I just think the most dangerous aspect is, I don't even think it's dangerous that much, but if they're Asian Aryan and they believe this, and they have this new cuck mentality, which is kind of really obnoxious. But those people can be yellow pilled really quick because I've already done it. But
right, well, yeah. Basically, there's the true believers, and then there's the people who just sort of go with the flow, and you can never red pill a true believer, meaning a true believer of the left, because it's it's a religion to them, basically.
They're radical, yeah.
I guess they would say it's the same with us, but I would say that, well, I wouldn't say no, but I would say yeah, but it's based on just basically the laws of, like, sociobiology, so it's just basically based on reality, is what we're saying, and they're just basically basing it on like Marxism and, like, Freud and a bunch of things that aren't really based on any theory. It's just because certain interest groups, certain the elites want certain things also, but
they have to keep that in a weird position of power or something. Like I find that it's like instead of using the left wing, right wing ghetto, it should be just a rational choice. Like, you could be left wing and right wing, but so as long as you're Asian Aryan or something like that, or you fight for a common interest. But the current left right now is denying that, and that's really bad.
Right. I was more talking about the current left. I don't mean, like, economic leftism or economic rightism at all. I mean sort of the dynamic we have right now in America.
Yeah.
Because economic leftism, that can be completely fine. I mean, good or bad, it's just really not related to what I was saying. And, same with economic right, it could be bad, it could be good. It's just not really what I was talking about. But, so, yeah, technically left and right didn't work there, but, it's how people talk about it. It's really more, now people are saying globalism and nationalism, but it's really just like natural law and people who, a specific interest group that is trying to advance its interests against everyone else.
Yeah.
I think you know what I'm talking about.
Well, I do believe that's kind of the common enemy, and it really only takes I think solution is really just takes yellow pilling or some kind of just defeating the enemy, because I don't think the enemy is backed up by their own honest truth. They just want to live a reality, and they're nihilist, and they just want to live life and not take the future consequences. They don't want to think they don't want to think 2 decades in advance. They only want to think 2 years in advance. And,
right.
That's basically
Right, but that's not the enemy. Those are the useful idiots, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Like, the actual enemy is thinking years in advance. Is the problem.
Yep, and I think it's definitely going to have a further effect on it, and just getting that enemy. I mean, I mean, to write, I don't really write about. I think the only enemy I find is just the useful idiots. But definitely I do think globalism and the whole effect, which the whole alt right and I do think anti-liberalism is so.
Or the globalists, are the real enemy. The Atlanticists, the Zionists. That's the real enemy, and the rest is basically just the damage they did, in my opinion. So, but yeah, it's not an easy task. But if the head of the serpent was cut off, it would all change overnight.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. Like I think it's the Ford Foundation. A lot of the groups that they give to are open borders groups, or even just straight up Antifa, people. And these Antifa, or whoever else, any activist group or any group like the SPLC or the ADL.
Right.
They are they're very well backed, and the right doesn't have that right now. And I think what's going to happen with
also backed by the media.
Yeah, they are. They're backed by financially. They're backed. They even have like force backing them up. Like in Charlottesville, they had the police department. But
yeah, they cooperated.
But I think, and this could relate to Asianarianism, I think the soft shift with right-wingers moving towards Russian platforms, or even soon maybe Chinese platforms for social media, could mean kind of like a soft patronage of these countries, giving us at least something to bite on. And I think as time goes on, and maybe
I think we have a lot to learn from Russia.
Yeah, I think as more right-wing.
I've shilled for this before, but I'm very interested in like Alexander Dugin and that strain of Eurasianism, which is geopolitical and it doesn't really mean what we're talking about. However, I think that the most corrupt powers, are these he calls them Atlanticists. We would call them Zionists, but this whole group needs to not be the center of the world. And once it's not, people will see that there are alternatives, and they will look towards those and see how they failed. And, we can't have, for America's sake, it's like America can't be the center of the world because America isn't America. It's basically the thing,
Yeah, and the other thing I would say with Dugin, I'm getting through fourth political theory right now, but Dugin's patron is Russia. And if you don't go into Dugin recognizing that, then there are times when he'll try to take advantage of you.
Yeah, that's true. Of course, he's a Russian first and foremost, and
he's worked for the Russian government, I think, too. So
yeah, but I
his overall political theory is actually really good, I would say.
But I generally don't have much I don't really see much wrong with him working for the Russian government. I don't think that's a bad thing. Of course, I don't think anything he wrote was dishonest.
No, I don't think it was dishonest.
But obviously, it's from that perspective, and you have to know he is very orthodox. His idea of his Russian imperium is an orthodox one, and I don't think any of us here are orthodox. So.
Well,
we don't generally. I don't know. Maybe
talk a little bit about Russian Orthodox, or not Russian Orthodox.
I mean, I have
Eastern
respect
Orthodoxy
for
in general.
But
I really like Orthodoxy.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great, but basically, that's his main thing. That's where he starts and stuff. I don't think anyone here is starting from that. If you are, that's fine because I don't think it conflicts. However, he's basically he wants basically the Russian imperium, but to include Central Asia as well, which I think geopolitically would be a good thing, but it's not for the same reasons, I'm not I don't, my views are not based on Russian Orthodoxy or on Russian imperialism or anything. I'm not Russian, so but I do think we need a counter power basically. So. Because when everything's based on America, which is going down the drain because of a parasitical upper class, you don't want that to drag the rest of the world down. So that's all I'm saying.
I think there's what's that, Appa?
But with like Orthodoxy, one of the things I wanted to say about it is that I think it is actually like an interesting blend of Eastern and Western tradition, as I think it does incorporate elements of Eastern mysticism, at least in the Russian and definitely the Oriental Orthodox Church. Like I think there's a Father Damasus, I think that's his name. He gave a lecture called "Christ the Eternal Tao," and he tried to relate Christianity and Taoism, I think, at least on an ethical level.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I think that the Orthodox Church is so far, I think it's much better than the Catholic Church, and it kind of represents how Russia really, they don't have anywhere to go but up at this point.
Right. I mean, I do think that it is kind of the least cucked version of Christianity that is mainstream. So, yeah, I agree with you there. I mean,
I'm actually gonna go to a Russian Orthodox church this weekend.
Oh yeah, I've been to one once, and it was really cool. I'm not really Christian, but it was just for a Russian class, and we went there, and like the preacher, or something. I think they have another name for it, but it was a very cool person, and it was all very traditional looking. It wasn't like a modern church. It was like relics and stuff, It was very cool.
Even the art is actually pre-Renaissance.
Yeah, the whole thing was like that. It was very interesting.
I think I'll put a bookmark in this conversation, as Richard Spencer would like to say, as we reach the hour right now.
So, top of the hour.
You were on the top of the hour, so I think we've covered a lot of this other things. But is there anything you'll else like to say, Hapa or Jotaro? Not much.
I can't really think of something right now.
What's that, Hapa?
There really isn't anything I can think of saying. Can I give a couple shout-outs?
Sure.
All right, shout-out to my homeboy Imperator on Instagram, or Ravy Westwood on Facebook. And, I write for MetaWrite.org. I put up an article occasionally, and I think I might start putting up more articles since I have, a little bit more free time now. And, become Orthodox.
I'll just say, follow me at Jotaro Mangala on Twitter. Right now that's what I'm doing, but it could expand. But that's where you can get in contact with me. So feel free to say anything.
Make It Pop is a very strange influence, or I don't want to say bad, and maybe I'm being bad influence, an ironic thing, that are turning young kids into Asian Aryans. That's all I'm going to say for my weird humor. But next, I'll talk to you next time, guys. It's nice having you on, Jotaro and Hapa.
Yeah, good to talk to you.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.